long, in good positions to get surge. Thomas in particular, the Monarch pistol again, it is just relentless, the amount of damage this guy is putting in with that.
That's right, and guess what? We actually have a moment from that last game. Let's listen into that game-winning moment.
I'm not gonna peek.
We should remember their skins. We should remember their skins. Yeah. They're dashing.
30 on them.
Okay, we know their skins though.
Yeah, Catwoman.
I got a kill.
Disconnected them on the right.
Yeah.
They have dashes still. Catwoman on the right.
Yeah, I see. Here, chop him, chop. I'm going across.
I have armor wall. I'm armor here.
Yeah, okay.
Armor yourself as well. Armor.
Yeah, I am. I did. We can get.
Spraying
we got
them, spraying them.
I don't have fizz. I don't have
60,
fizz.
100 points. Beat that.
Nice.
He's coming up.
Going up. Yeah, I see. 100.
30.
Crack.
Dead.
Behind you. 1 HP.
Dead.
Yeah.
Take height on that.
Absolutely amazing stuff there. Just to see them be excited. Levin, I want to double back. You talk about that Monarch pistol in hand. We joked about it at the start of the day. What kind of damage are we actually putting in with this?
Let's take a look at the numbers. Who do you think is going to be leading with the Monarch pistol? Surprise, surprise. No surprise at all. Thomas HD by far and away just crazy with it. Again, if you know anything about Thomas HD and metas of previous years, it would have been the sniper rifle where you would have probably seen him be the leader. He's replaced the Monarch in that sense and is doing the big damage with it, and it's a big part of their success this weekend.
Love that from you, Levin. Honestly, I saw a little bit of a shot right there that we were getting on the stage. It was Thomas and Queasy, right? If they actually turn around in their chairs, guess who's right across from them? Peterbot and Pollo. They were actually staring each other down up there, probably sharing some emotions right there. That's awesome. They're like, hey, listen, it's game on.
That's right. Let's talk about Peterbot and Pollo here for just a moment. Very uncharacteristic out of the duo, right? They obviously had Medallion. They had mythic items in hand, but we kind of go up to Rift Island, and they are just in shambles at one point. No materials, no shield.
Well, the big thing for me was that Peterbot and Pollo, they're kind of used to getting the Rift Island uncontested. Usually there was like one other team that was up there yesterday. Sometimes that was kind of just based on the side of it. But we actually saw 2 other teams up there that were interested in even capturing the Rift Island, right? And once we tuned in with them when they were actually up there on the Rift Island, I think they were only like, what, 60 damage above? And usually that's like 400.
That's literally what I was about to say, right? Where it's like, they shouldn't even have to rely on going to Rift Island to be getting their damage. Usually they are much higher before that. I think we're already seeing some changes in the way people are playing around that area of the map in the mid game, and they're clearly struggling with it. They're gonna have to figure things out, and fast.
That's right. Third place, Trulex and Chicho just rising up the standings. They're holding that third place. And to think here, Trulex had to do this as a solo player. He has to play heals, but in those moments with this multiplayer, those placement points make a difference.
Absolutely. It's exactly what you expect Trulex and Chicho to do. To be honest with it, a bit unfortunate with how that game sort of panned out towards the end. They were doing a good job on some of those mid to low layers. They get cut off, right, on low ground, and usually if you get cut off on low ground, it's possible to reclaim it. The problem was the team that cut them off used armor walls, but they're pickaxing through armored walls to try to get out of the storm, and again they just lose too much time. It forces Trulex to use those medkits earlier than they probably would have wanted to, and that leads to the end of their game. A top 6 ain't bad, but that could have easily been another top 3 for them.
No, but it was super good for them, right? Because coming into the day, remember, they were one of those top 5 teams, and we saw actually multiple of our top 5 teams go down. Those being Vico and Flixie went down early. Again, obviously Peterbot and Pollo went down early, but another one was Acorn and Cole that also went down early. And I think me and Levin, we noticed something very fast that game. They were uncontested. They were contested for all 6 games yesterday. So that big switch up could be affecting things largely.
Those ripples making a difference here. Every little thing can change an outcome, but it is that time. Game number 8 is being ready for us. So casters, on over to you.
Yeah, it does seem like being uncontested now is starting to work against some of the favorites who are up at the top.
Yeah, and for the teams that are having to essentially switch up their strategies, one thing we were noticing, you pulled up something rather interesting from socials. Swizzy even giving the shout out. I will seriously do my best today. So match number 8, let's see if he's got it.
Game number 8 is here. And there is a lot that we have brewing now here inside the Storm and on the Battle Bus, of course, given that The gap has officially closed, and you saw in the interview just moments ago, Queasy mentioning that, hey, if there's enough space between me and third, we're gonna do everything it takes to secure #1.
And that might be one of the worst things ever if you're Peterbot and Pollo. You almost have to try and block it out, but how much can you really ignore when you see the gap chopped so viciously after a singular match because of that 1.5 times point multiplier? But drawing that conversation back to that little note that Vivid had touched on, teams that were contesting each other, they might have gotten very accustomed to having consistent damage. I think Acorn and Cold specifically,
yes,
they were so directly in control of Brittle Beachhead, Alex and Sato. They tried their best, but they realized this is not gonna work out. We've got to completely revamp our strategy for day 2, and now it's up to Acorn and Cole to figure out a new game plan on the fly.
Talking about that, even Huddy and Kovacs now have seemingly demanded their respect from Stroll and Sky, who have given up the Rebels. Roost already moving out. Likely that they had a bad drop here, and these small micro changes will absolutely create domino effects. So what we're looking at, 7th place now, doesn't have as many teams there. We already know Vino and Clicks had a little bit of a different situation unfolding at their drop. Peterbot and Pollo had a team move out, right? All of these teams now have to make adjustments.
But Benno moving in quickly towards that launch pad. It's evident with the forecast tower in sight, there's going to be a brawl stemming out of Sandy Steps, but also drawing in the attention of teams surrounding this southern section of the map.
Look at this.
Stored Reels definitely getting active.
Power Alex, Power Worthy continuing to perform very well on the drop. But that mid game, they can tighten things up, possibly leave the Reels faster. They'll be better off. Angles looking good here. All shield bubbles expended, but look at the distance. There is, of course, more players coming in.
Love this snap fly adjustment out of Cooper and Kanata, though. They recognize, hey, we had issues with Surge. What better way than to try and third-party teams that won't be expecting it? Alex and Worthy, they're still trying to chase down Merstash. They find the second elimination. Malabuka and Merstash fall yet again to Oshi, but now Kanata, Cooper, they're not gonna let them relish in the moment for even a second. Kanata immediately breathing down the neck of Alex. He's trying to get a scramble out, but he hasn't had a chance to regenerate anything. He's just hoping that his teammate can try to provide some relief, but Kanata and Cooper, they finally find Alex, and that's gonna be the end of one half of the Oshi Power Boys.
And you can see Alex's only concern there was, let me buy time for my teammate to get out. We can still play this game. So Worthy looking to secure as much loot as possible and then rotate out. Meanwhile, seems like EU's Chap and Teeny here are going against NA Pars and Baka. So far, so good for Pars and Baka, who have a defensive hold inside the factory, but Teeny and Chap likely feeling like it's a little dangerous to step in now. They're gonna take what they can and move on out, it seems.
Teeny possibly reverting back to his old ways. This Chap next to him seems like they want to look to try and apply some pressure to any teams that might be looking for some easy fishing strats over by the dock next to the ship it station. Yapko and Swizzy on the other hand, popping up at the raft. They're gonna manage to find threats in the process. And this triple contest situation just continues to heat up, but this is a very different Brittle Beachhead vision in comparison to what we've been used to seeing.
Yeah, we got Cow Gamer, Haman here now, up against Andilex and Sato. Nicely done for Haman. Finding Sato with a big elimination here. Now Cow Gamer has to win his ones, going toe-to-toe for the shot there. Andilex extremely weak, but instead calls in the backup, and beautifully done as Haman finishes the deal here for Middle East. And they're gonna find themselves a wonderful set of eliminations. Now the drop is theirs, no Acorn and Cold, so clearly a rotate must have happened and a lot sooner.
They're not the only ones countering some slight adjustments to loop path and rotation strategies early on. Rico Flixie next to Booga and a V, but at the same time, some damage was clearly applied. Whether that came from Bugha and a V, didn't necessarily get the chance to see, but Vico and Flixie are now inside of the cemetery, and there's a very high likelihood that they're just looking and waiting for the opportunity to make a play for the weapons bunker nearby.
Take a little quick highlight here as we walk away. Unfortunately, King and Phaser gonna be some of the duos caught out. An old risky play walking into a building and a team sitting in the attic. What can you do?
It's almost like how we saw Huddy and Kovacs sitting inside of a bush in match 7. Like a lot of these players, again, you don't really want to get messy. You don't want to cut any corners. You've got to make sure that you are checking every angle, proceeding with caution every step of the way. Otherwise, you might just find yourself off guard. Braids completely exposed. Huddy had the overhead view, but didn't manage to connect the shots.
Still like this angle here. Plenty of gas in the tank here for Huddy. As he slides out, Visual and Braids put up a great fight so far. Huddy opening the distance here, still keeping tabs on the opponent, making sure the teammate doesn't find too much of an angle on him. And then you have in the bush, in the distance, in the base, Buzz and Epic Whale just listening ever so closely. Meanwhile, Peterbot and Pollo making up for match number 7 here in match 8. Trying to farm and fish for tags, right? This is their biggest problem in match number 7. Now that they're uncontested, basically didn't get to get those early fights, right? Things have gone a little bit differently for them. It's becoming a lot more difficult.
It's the same for Clix and Vena, though. They've seemingly been surrounded. We knew that there was going to be a lot of foot traffic coming through this area based off the forecast tower spawn, but with Peterbot and Pollo seemingly in full control of that, Clix, Veno, they're now going to have to choose a new method to try and establish some surge tag damage. And again, with Storm closing in on their backs, they could take their time. They could still potentially loop back around, hit the vending machine that they're familiar with, if that's still standing.
Vino looking to see if he can find any tags anywhere. Meanwhile, Chicho and Trulex, they've been putting on a performance worth studying. You have to start to wonder now, what is it about their drop spot, their mid game, their early game that they've been able to do so well that they've continued to make end game and then perform at the highest caliber. Now being one of the few teams in the race here for the first place. But they still have to keep it up. They've still been contested, although the team that's there has given them a little bit of room to work with. Meanwhile, a team that has a lot less room, Swizzy and Yapko, right? We all know the Raft has been highly fought after. They have 3 Elans, so they're not making it easy for anyone, but hold up, Clix is in a battle.
It's Crisp on the other side of this box, but Clix, Veno definitely looking a lot more healthy than their counterpart, and sure enough, Veno is gonna close this one out. That's another elimination, 12 points already. Keep in mind, that point multiplier doesn't just come into effect for the placements, but eliminations also being worth 6 apiece. It's a great way to climb. But Veno, Clix, they've gotta be careful, sneaking up when they least expect it from 2 separate sides. Aspect, Kazi, Damo resigns. This could go from bad to worse in a moment.
Yeah, Clix already hears the shots coming out here, so they're not slick by any means. He does have a couple of splashes here, so being able to get their HP up is not going to be too much of a problem. Meanwhile, Vino looking to alpha up some positioning over Kazi and Aspect here. Trying to see what this team wants to do. Vino clearly doesn't want to stick around for too much longer. It's a lot of risk involved here. He does have a couple of med kits. I like what he's doing, though. He's inching his way across here, saying if you really want to do this, we're going to do it box to box, mano a mano. And there's the loot that he was trying to secure. Now he has got max mats, and there isn't much more for him to worry about here. However, if they stick around too much longer, I mean, only trouble is waiting for them.
At the same time, they've got to be really careful on how they choose to disembark and rotate out of here, because with so many eyes on, there is a high likelihood they could get tagged up in the process. And it's very nice that Benno was able to secure those max mats, because Clix having to build the entire way as they maneuver out of that location next to Sandy Steps.
Take a look at the highlight here from Chap and Teeny. Strong EU duo, very consistent and for good reason. They take down FKS and Adapter there in a head-to-head engagement. Adapter still standing, actually, as we jump in live here, even after the save, but unfortunate now as they get fully finished. Trap goes down, the save's gonna come in. More shots from the distance here. It's Vico and Flixie hearing what's happening. Bobby and Larpex inside the base nearby as well. In come Muzz and Epic Whale. They hear the action. They're gonna need some surge. So it's a melting pot of regions and competition coming together now.
It's just the way that we're seeing all of these teams essentially conglomerate on top of each other. We didn't get a whole lot of this in day one, but the adjustments that everyone is trying to adapt to last second here, causing so many hiccups for everyone else that teams are encountering across the way. Poyo and Peterbot even working their way through the storm. Got eyes on Yapko and Swizzy. They clearly want the fight, but way off in the distance, teams a little bit closer to that edge of zone, putting even more pressure still onto Peterbot and Poyo. They are not getting the same clean rotations that they had all day yesterday.
Now keep in mind, this is a team that has landed on each other, right, coming into the season. So Peterbot and Poyo now forcing a back out because tags are coming in from the distance is definitely not ideal by any means. However, if they found the tags that they need, they won't have the problem they had in match number 7, right? They were so far below the surge. This lobby's starting to cut down pretty quick, so we are just gonna have to see what happens when the zone closes here.
Problem though, Peterbot, he's the only one with the medkit. Poyo, he's got to hope that he can find some bandages, a medkit, any form of white heals along the way. But that moment doesn't seem like it's going to come. A lone couple of bananas, and Peterbot knows he's just gonna have to let his duo fall. He'll make the play for the revive after he expends this medkit, but they've still got so much ground to cover, and a team already choosing to close in. Sky, Scroll, they have the immediate collapse. Peterbot, can he get Poyo up?
They've been watching, they saw what happened, and then they saw the name that went down. Peterbot fully armors himself up. Every wall is covered here. They will have to literally break him out and then fight, and he is ready. Rifle in hand, shotgun in the backup kit, ready to go. He tries to go for the wall replace first. Very smart done. However, starting to run out of material. Peterbot is one of the best in the world, and for good reason. You just cannot stop him if he does not want it to be done. Look at how well he's putting up a fight in a 2v1 situation right now.
The fact that he's even delayed Sky and Scroll for this long is phenomenal, as is Peterbot continuing to split them apart. He will not let them challenge him 1 versus 1. Anything else is not going to go their way, but Peterbot, he's still managing to scramble. He's on the escape. He's got the reveal marks as well. He knows exactly how he needs to move. But again, Sky Scroll, they realize we got to reconvene. We got to re-aggress. Peterbot from below. He's on his last little ticks of HP, and I don't think he's going to make it out.
Finds a bandage, has to hit it, but unfortunately will fall now. And that is back-to-back games of trouble on the horizon now for Peterbot and Poyo. And it is just starting to slip away now. If there was ever a moment for the competition to really find their confidence here in day number 2, it is now. What a critical moment that just unfolded in match number 8.
But again, we heard it even in that last interview that Adam just had with Queasy and Thomas HD. They choose to still play the game as if nothing's gone wrong. There's been no spoiler in effect for the first place team because they know their best performance is going to come from 0 distractions.
Crazy to think that if the OCE team didn't rotate in at that time, he would have gotten the bandage off and we would have still seen something potentially unfold. But the reality is now, top 5 is going to shake up.
And at this point, Peterbot and Pollo, they might just have to hit the drawing board themselves, because that's 2 for 2 on the start of today. That is just not gone anywhere near the direction that they would have hoped here in day 2. But on a separate note, Thomas HD, Queasy got a nice overview of the rest of the map from their current position. Use some of the natural elevation to base up on. And here at Mount Olympus, a couple of teams nearby, but they've just got so much space boxed out and claimed.
Bryson Bolts with the Rift Island. Chicho and Trulix down low. Still sitting pretty in 3rd place right now, based up under the Rift Island. Not an ideal situation to be in here, given that teams won't rotate because they see the island, let alone get a better angle for Chicho and Trulix. Very unlikely, but they have a duo in sight. It'll be important for them to find a couple tags here. 340 above, they should be okay for the time being. However, that's the damage that we're looking for.
Another little bit of a shock, though, as far as our top 5 is concerned. Spinks and Dukes have also been eliminated. They jumped up a few placements after their match 7 performance. They were sitting inside of top 10, 9th, I believe, to start day 2. So the fact that they've fallen here already just means, again, ample opportunity for some of these other teams to try and leapfrog their way up and over inside of that top threshold of the leaderboard. But Vico, Flixie, first off, they've got to deal with a little bit of pressure from the north side of where they're based. And again, Vico and Flixie, they had some success whenever they were able to find those forecast towers in yesterday's matches, but it's not going to be as easy this time around, and Bryson Bolts are a big part of the reason why.
Bryson Bolts, slow and steady, wins the race, and they have been working their way on up. Just look at those standings right there. Currently in 6th right now. Most of the immediate competition sitting on ice for a second. Another unfortunate run for Cold and Acorn here. And they're a day 2 type of team, so really have to scratch your head and wonder what's happening over there. But Clix and Vino have a lot more to worry about here. Resigns and Demo out of the question here, trying to look for the fight. Vino with a monstrous tag, and they just shut down Resigns and Demo, really showing them who's the kings of this one right now. But Chicho and Trulix have also met their match. What is happening over here?
Rift Island just continues to get even more traction surrounding the baseline of it. Teams that are potentially hoping to try and utilize some of the mobility aspects surrounding it, such as the rifts, and in fact, Chicho, Trulix, they're on the go. But remember, Queasy, Thomas HD, they were sitting on a peak near Mount Olympus. There's a very high likelihood that they're going to be looking to take some shots at some of these teams rolling in from the Rift Island.
Aviv and Booga are definitely one of those teams as well. They have a lot of high ground. Back on over to Bolts and Bryce, though. Finding Agers out here on the rotate there. Very, very important tags, given that they are just 40 above the damage threshold. So just a couple moments before that starts to affect everyone here. Big moves coming in, though. Once the zone closed, the damage will start to escalate very, very quickly. The later the game goes, the more storm damage it will do per tick of you sitting inside of it. Bolts and Bryce cannot afford to mess around here. They will luckily pull zone to their side. However, they are under the focus of the rest of the lobby. It's not looking good here.
And not only that, but they're also getting battered by these Storm Surge ticks. They need to connect at least one more shot, but they're losing the time to do so because they're having to heal instead. Valuable seconds. They could maybe catch some of these other teams that are also late on the rotate, but instead they're forced to deplete all of their shields, hoping that they don't get cracked, because that audio cue might just be enough for somebody nearby to try and key them as well.
Yeah, having to force heal all of their resources at this point. Beautiful tags there is going to give them a little moment of relief, and that's exactly what has to be done here. So makes you appreciate having someone like Bolts on your team who can actually hit the shots that matter most. That means someone else on the lobby right now is taking that damage. If they're above, someone is definitely below. So these trades are happening in real time right now. Looking at the map, teams are starting to rotate in, now starting to get comfortable below them. If Bolts and Bryce can solidify their foundation, they have one of the stronger positions to actually close this game out now.
Almost makes me believe that they could have potentially gotten their hands onto that forecast tower as well, given that they were willing to commit to a rather central position inside of this last zone. But Queasy, Thomas, off the launch pad, they're gonna be some of the first touchdown front side of this next zone, and instantly Queasy trying to see if he can re-establish the height control, same level of success that they had in that last lobby. We know that's their game plan, and so does everybody else in this lobby.
I like that though too. He's got a lot of distance to work with, that natural elevation as well, not looking to overcommit given that the zone's gonna pull here. And it was the right call. It's going far south. You know, these are the things you can't really account for. When the zone starts to bounce like this, it makes a big difference. And Vico and Flixie with an excellent early rotate right now, taking advantage of everyone's decision to kind of wait this one out and come up and formulate a strategy. Huddy and Kovacs, though, below the surge for the first time on the tournament weekend.
And again, keep in mind, this is a duo that hasn't necessarily been struggling with surge, but they've also thankfully managed to find an elimination in the nick of time here. Kovacs gonna put his duo just above 127 now on that damage threshold, but they still got to make this rotate happen. They're trying to build up. They just expended their last underworld dashes, and now the focus coming back their way as they try to scale this hill face. An armored wall is gonna come out, and Kovac just seeing if he can remain undetected.
This is so impressive by Chicho and Trulix. Chicho's gonna fall here to the storm with the refresh, which is so unfortunate, but they've managed to really earn their way through this endgame now. Can Trulix get to safety? They're still a long way in front of them. And it's almost bait that there's a zip line there. Don't take that, Trulix. He knows it. He's gonna avoid that at all costs here, going around the sides now. He's safe, but for how long? Top 20 in sight. Meanwhile, on high ground, other teams now starting to set up the zone. Not as brutal this time around, a little bit more of a forgiving rotate here as things are going across. If you have high ground, though, you are set up. And Cammy and Seti are one of those teams looking to be the day 2 comeback.
But they might not even recognize the fact that Flixie, Vico, they've managed to get this wraparound flank coming from a much less congested side of the zone, but still, Seti, Cammy, they are due for a comeback, and they've got to go massive here if they want to try and overcome a lot of those shortcomings that happened in day 1. Huddy, Kovacs now getting held at the base of this mountain base. The zone pulls through Mount Olympus just so brutal with all these shifts in the elevation.
Vico and Flixie still alive as well right now, moving their way up, actually utilizing the zip line for a moment there. A little bit cautious though as he want to get to his teammate here. Who's on this ramp? There he is. Here comes the heals. They see a player below them, but they can't even afford to stick around. Unfortunately, Flixie misses the jump there. He'll just have to be caught up. Vico takes the build, breaks them all through the zip line there, and now he is crushing his way through. Meanwhile, Bryce coming up behind them. Kovacs lands a shot on him. It's not safe at all here inside the top 15.
The zipline trick is not going to work out twice here as Bryce hoping that he can have an opportunity to utilize some of the last bits of that Flowberry Fizz. But again, Cammy, Seti, full control of the high ground. But keep your eyes on Blitz and Benno. They started ramping up. They might actually be close enough to get within striking range. And Thomas HD Queasy, similar mentality.
This has to be the hardest zone to make your rotate across here. Queasy knows it. Beautiful tag there, but not enough to stay alive. Thomas HD will make it into the top 10, top 7 now. Vico still standing as well. This is probably the most difficult zone we have ever had at one of these invitationals. At this lane here, it just gets so intense now. But give it a moment here, let things breathe. Vico's found his footing, down goes Thomas, top 5 now. Just moments away here from a potential win for Cammy and Seti now.
But the fact is, Vico is clutching up some very needed points as far as overcoming the top 3 inside the leaderboard. He's got the last little bits of his Flowberry Fizz to work with. Now he just needs to unleash. We know what kind of solo clutch potential he has in store. If he can find another elimination or two, that could be the difference. But Click is dead. Gonna bring that one home.
Comes out of nowhere with a huge shot in the top 3 to put him right back into things here. It's Pixie who's still alive alongside Giannis. It's a 2v2. They have enough health and just enough material to make this one very interesting. Armored walls now starting to come out. Cammy doing the same here to try to conserve some material. Said he's got a lot to work with, but so many armored walls are gonna buy them time, buy them room, right? There's still the clock running here. Nice counterfire now coming up to the high ground. Giannis is exceptionally well in these situations, but it's not looking good. Cammy and Seti are just chopping away now.
Seti even opting for the drop down, but it might not even be necessary. The Polish Pantheon looking to try and take over here. Pixie, Giannis scrambling around the low ground, but Pixie falls. Only one remains. Seti's gonna look to find it.